Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Yearbook News. I'm here with Sarah and Lucy again, and we're continuing our podcast series on our instructional guides. Would everyone be able to say hello really quickly?
How are you doing, everyone?
Thank you so much. And as always, I want to start off our podcast with just some yearbook news, United Yearbook updates. So Sarah, if you could tell everyone about the wonderful things that United Yearbook has been doing over the summer, that would be wonderful.
Sure. I can't believe the summer is going by so fast. We already started hearing from school that some teachers/advisors are returning back to school next week. In our previous podcast, early in the summer, we have a lot of update. Teachers are gone, students are on break, but we have been very diligent and prepare a lot of material that will be ready when teacher returned. The latest update is for every inquiry who visit our website or contact us to request a custom proposal, regardless of where you're located in this world, in Europe, India, Asia, or in the US or Canada or in South America, you're going to receive a special gift from us that will showcase some of the very customized, innovative product that we do. So just bear in mind, you're going to receive something in the mail from us. And also to make some new advisors or teacher school to be able to get our a custom proposal easier. So we have a matrix system that they can choose to provide simple information like the page count and quantity, and our website, the platform will be able to generate a quote for you. So in the past, you have to wait for a yearbook wrap, but now you can do it all, from a click of a mouse. So we want to try to make it easy for advisors from all over the world to use our service. And so we hope that the latest update is going to make it even easier for you to get pricing from us 24/7.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that update, Sarah. Yes, we are so excited to be able to offer that soon to advisors and to really get connected with more advisors here in the US and just around the world. We just want to really spread the United Yearbook customization options that we have and just really get more advisors connected with us. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Sarah.
You're welcome.
And now shifting gears a little bit, as you said already, Sarah, school is coming back, and some advisors may not love the sound of that, but that's the reality. So we're going to kind of focus on, those first few weeks of school and how our instructional guides can really help inform you during that time. So the first thing that I wanted to open us up with is that in our last meeting, we discussed, mission/vision statement. And so I want to kind of go back to that, and I want you to really help inform advisors, Lucy, on how they can really implement that during those first few weeks of school.
Well, as we talked about the last time, the mission and vision statements were developed by the students, for the work that they were going to do for the entire year in the development of the yearbook. And so having the mission statement and the vision statement, and the vision statement is different from the mission statement in this way. The mission statement is a brief goal for everyone about the work. The vision statement is how the steps, how they're going to implement it, how they're going to make it real. And so with those two related yet different statements of purpose for the students, again, authored by the students, to be implemented by the students, to be in the class, visual as a part of the class every day, so that it can be a reference point for all of the work on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a quarterly basis, on a semester basis, so that it can be used as a teaching device, so that you can always bring your students back to those two very important statements as a reference for what they're doing in the moment. Is it aligned to what the goals were at the outset of the year? So I always believed that the mission statement and the vision of how to implement that mission were so important that we actually made a big deal of creating the posters so that they would be a visual statement within the room. And I often went back to them, okay, friends, how is what we're doing a part of the vision statement to implement our mission? Is this story really aligned with the mission? Remember what our mission is. How is this module going to implement the mission? And so we practice that recursive quality of going back and back and back to help keep our work on the track that we want it to be. So that's at least how I envisioned it in my class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a wonderful tip for advisors. And if they have any more questions about, mission/vision statements, they can, refer to our episode from last 2 weeks. And so I think you kind of elaborated more on that. But I love that idea of having that visual, and I love that you kept going back to it, because I think, like you were saying, this is the whole reason, this is the reason, and this is how to get there. And so being able to go through that with students throughout the year is something that's very positive. And I'm not sure if this is how it was in your classroom, but that's another maybe bonding moment for students to be able to create that together and post that up, and then, be able to look back on it and be like, we got to create this together at the beginning of the year. And maybe they'll look back on it at the end of the year and think, we barely even knew each other at this point, and look at what we created, so yeah.
The guidepost for the work that was ahead. And what's interesting also is that the mission and vision expands. It doesn't necessarily contract the work, but it expands the work, so that as the staff finds stories occurring that were unexpected, because that's what happens during the course of a year, then when you ask them to relate it back to the mission, or to view that story, that unexpected event, through the lens of the mission and the vision, then the growth that occurs around making sure that the story is in support of the mission and vision is amazing to me, actually. Again, it is a expansion kind of notion rather than a contraction. It's not, it does support editing skills, and what doesn't necessarily need to be a part of a story, but it also expands the notion of what could be a story for the yearbook.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. Thank you for pointing that out, because maybe some advisors are listening and thinking like, oh, we don't want to be limited to this, but
Right.
rather this is something that goes beyond, goes above and beyond, and it's something that you get to follow. And like you said, it expands. It makes me think of just the leadership aspects as well that probably go into the beginning of the school year, and being able to create a successful mission and vision statement. And I was wondering if you could kind of touch on like student leadership, because obviously it's very important to be able to have those student leaders and at the beginning of the year, and kind of really mentor. As an advisor, you're doing mentorship, and then in turn, those student leaders are going to go ahead and mentor other students. And so,
Right.
how are you able to kind of facilitate that at the beginning of the year?
If you are fortunate enough to have students who sign up again for Yearbook. And there often is a core group of students who want to establish themselves in a second year. And so they bring their skill set and they bring their knowledge of what occurred before. And they bring their desire to be more fully invested in the process of designing and creating a yearbook for everyone. So you often have a core group, but let's say you don't. Let's say you don't have a core group and you are trying to establish a student leadership. The most important thing, I think, is to develop community within the class. And so the first couple of weeks of school, many teachers, not all, but many teachers, regardless of discipline, try to help assemble that community bonding within their classroom, because regardless of subject matter, there is always the need for team effort, for the idea of group design, for the idea of collaboration across the student body. So the notion of being able to work together as staff with that big mission in mind requires a lot in the way of team building, community building. And so I came across this one team building exercise this last week that I thought was kind of nice. Teachers do something like this, but this teacher was pretty clear about the notion of instilling boundaries within the team building, and the boundaries are rigorous and hard. They push against the notion of building community. So for an example, the activity is with all of these popsicle sticks, you have to build a support that can hold a dictionary, okay? So you're given a length of yarn. Everybody's given the length of yarn that each group, rather, not everybody, but each group is given a length of yarn and a number, the same number of popsicle sticks, and a length of tape. And the rules are you cannot talk to each other. And so because you cannot talk to each other, communication has to happen in a different way. And the idea then becomes a little bit difficult, especially at the beginning of the year when you don't know everybody and you might be with people that you have only seen on campus rather than interacted with on campus. And so you need to be able to expose yourself in a modest way in order to gain some kind of cooperation, in order to build this thing. And then you are also under a time crunch. You're only allowed X number of minutes in order to get this facilitated. And then suddenly in the middle of this, the teacher takes one student from each group, and that student has the piece of tape that was given to each group, and they go out into the hallway, and the teacher locks them out in the hallway. So the teacher has taken away a core member of the group that has the tape, and the time is still ticking. And at the end of the time, which is like 9 minutes or so, nobody has a foundation that is strong enough to hold a dictionary. And so he brings in the kids from the hallway. Everybody's a little bit hot under the collar. They really are, okay. So the teacher says, why didn't this work? And so everybody, addresses the teacher. Well, you said we couldn't talk. You took our tape away. We were short a person, and so that kind of development. Okay, so you're saying that talking with each other will help with the building? Oh, okay, let's give that a try. And keeping everybody in the classroom. So being here, being present matters to a group effort. Being absent is not a help. Okay, let's see if that really works. Having all the tools at your disposal, oh, that helps. Okay, let's see if that really works. Given the same time crunch, at the end of that, they could talk, they could use all of their tools, and at the end, every group had a very different foundation built out of popsicle sticks, yarn, and tape, but everybody's held a dictionary. So making it really clear to kids that being present, working together, communicating together, and working with the right tools helped to create what they needed. And everyone was essential. So those kind of team building experiences where you can compare and contrast what works and what doesn't in order to, I think it drives home the point of community collaboration, cooperation, and teamwork for group endeavors, drives it home real quick. So that kind of team building at the very beginning of the year, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah, that's such a unique activity. I've never heard of anything like that, but I feel like that's such a just a fun way to be able to get that point across, you know,
Yes.
and I'm sure that the students had fun, you know, they were probably struggling a little bit at the beginning, but at the end of the day, I'm sure they had a fun time trying to build trying to hold up the dictionary with the popsicle sticks. And you know, that's something that's probably going to stick with them too. They're going to think back, I remember when I tried to do this, and this is the lesson I learned. Communication is key. Everyone is a vital part of the team. So I love that like unique way that this teacher was able to teach his students and get that point across to them.
And so that's the beginning of student leadership. Making sure that everybody has a voice and a place at the table and can bring their unique gifts. That's the beginning.
Yeah. Are there any ways that you would, you know, tell advisors that they can go into our instructional guides and kind of find some advice or maybe learning activities on how to build that student leadership?
As a matter of fact, we do have an instructional guide that is all about the concept of developing student leadership. And the kind of student leadership that United Yearbook has presented is, I think, a very good model. It's called servant leadership. And servant leadership is about bringing others into the work in a very deliberate way, sharing decision making and sharing credit and sharing the good and the bad, in other words, so that the group moves forward in positive ways. The servant leader is one who really looks at developing amongst their group qualities of leadership as well. So it does not end with the student who is the editor or the photographer for the lead photographer. That person looks to their group that they are responsible for and develops their skill sets as well. So it's a passing the baton kind of scalable process of mentorship and developing of staff leadership. And often when you do have that core group of kids that come for a second year, they have been allowed to develop that special skill set in some way. in order to become more invested in the process of developing the yearbook. And so that kind of invitational staff leadership, student leadership is, I think, critical to making students aware of the entire process of what it means to be a leader. Leadership is not just about the glory and getting your name on the page, and leadership is about walking alongside your teammates and making sure they get to the finish line as well, and that they get to the finish line with a sense of pride in their work as well. So developing that kind of leadership in the guide that we have that's devoted to student leadership comes in a lot of different ways. There are lots of different tools out there that people can use. We've listed many different sources. One of the sources that we utilize is it's a personality inventory. And there are lots of those that we can use with our students. And you know, those personality inventories, those self-inventories are interesting to kids because they're at that stage in their life where they're really interested in excavating who they are and where they are in their life journey at the moment, and where they might possibly go in their futures. And so learning about who they are in relationship to themselves, in relationship to their peers, in relationship to others in authority figures is kind of interesting. So we do have an instructional guide with lots of activities and lots of resources. It's going to bother me that I can't remember that. It'll come to me and I'll remember. Sorry.
No problem, Lucy. We're going to actually include the link that advisor, teacher, or school admin is interested in looking further of that particular instructional guide at the end of this in the comment box. So now, you know, one of the updates that we have this year that school who are not signed with us or who are signed with us will have full access of being able to download or purchase our instructional guide. Of course, you know, our current account get to use them for free, absolutely free.
Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. Yeah, and we'll include that link as she said. And I appreciate you being able to just discuss that with everyone, Lucy, because, you know, we've been talking about our instructional guides. Obviously, that's one of the main things that we want to discuss during this podcast series. But just being able to hear the different ways that we've just included different resources and just all of the content that is packed into these instructional guides. I think it's wonderful to be able to hear about it and to be able to share that with advisors, because I'm sure, you know, for advisors, there's so many things that they want to touch base with, you know, their students, and maybe they don't know where to start, or maybe they don't know what to include this year, or whatever it may be. And so maybe some advisors didn't think to do this personality quiz or personality assessment with their students. And so being able to have that as a resource, just one of the many resources within the instructional guide, I think is absolutely wonderful. So I appreciate you sharing that. And, you know, I always love to hear about the different activities, the different resources that we have within the guides. So switching gears a little bit, we've already talked about student leadership. We've talked about, you know, mission and vision statement a little bit. What are some other key things that advisors will need to really think about during those first few weeks of school?
Well, as we talked about earlier, you're going to need to make sure that their calendars for coverage of events is crafted, and that they have a process in place with their students so that they can look at it on a weekly basis and make sure that everything is covered for the week. I think that also teachers need to figure out the technology that needs to be taught, the design aspects that need to be taught, the photography aspects that need to be taught, and the ethics aspects that need to be taught. The ethics aspects we talked about earlier, and we suggested some resources like the journalism professional code of ethics. And we have those in our instructional guides as well. The technology aspect would include things like the management of photographs and the storage of photographs, and making sure that the software package that you are using for the development of the yearbook and the creation of your photos, the editing software that you're choosing to use. And I know that United Yearbook uses Flickbooks, and that's a very robust software package that I think most schools will find successful to use. And it can be used by students in off-site locations. So that's an important thing to remember when you are thinking about technology and the software packages that you are using with your students. They need to be able to access the software package for the development of their yearbook from lots of different locations. The software, the storage, the technology for storage, I found that cloud-based storage was a lot easier than site-based storage, but server systems are still in use on a lot of campuses. So you might want to, if that's the case, then you might want to make sure that you have enough storage in the server system, and that you have ready access to it, and that your students can, as part of their daily routine, bring in whatever photographs they have and put them into the server system. And that's a protocol that you design with your students, and that it becomes with practice, it becomes a natural flow, a natural system for your students to use. The more systematic you can make these critical, daily, ordinary things that are expected, like the storage of your photographs and the retrieval of your photographs and the design of your templates and the retrieval of your templates, and whatever it is that you find that you use a lot, the more systematic you can make it for yourself and the students, the better it is for everyone. And so whether you use a server system or you use a cloud-based system, that's certainly up to everybody to decide. Regardless, the calendar is hugely important, and you can break that down in a spreadsheet, a spreadsheet ladder. And ladder is the colloquial, the vocabulary of organization in Yearbook, and it very clearly defines what page is, what story is, what photographs, and who is doing it, and who's responsible, because accountability and responsibility is an essential part of developing student leadership, and it's essential to keeping staff on target. And so the more you can systemize that in whatever format you can as a teacher, and the latter for me was hugely important, the better. The cloud-based organization for me was a huge aspect for my students in their accountability and responsibilities as well. So that, in a nutshell, once you put a lot of thinking behind it and pull it into the classroom, you will probably have to adjust it and refine it along the way. And your students will be very good at being able to decipher with you how changes need to be made with the systems that you create for the ease of teaching and learning in your classroom. But again, systems important. Get them down.
Yeah, I remember Lucy, one summer when United Yearbook hosted a summer workshop at your school. The first thing that we did was to help the student to come up with a list of sections for the entire yearbook. And we were able to do it in one day. So I think that will also be one thing that advisor will work with the student during the first couple of weeks of school, so that they have a preliminary idea of what to be included in the yearbook, throughout the school year. I like your suggestion, getting the school calendar, an event, so that that create a baseline, for the teachers and the student, what should be included, because there's some event they must need to be included, right? I know that, sometimes there may be last minute event that may be added during the later part of the school year, but having that schedule at the beginning of the school year, particularly in the first couple of weeks, would be very, very important. Another thing I would like to add, yes, we provide an online design software. And this summer, we also added an option for advisor to purchase a different level of package of that particular software. They can just choose to use the basic service or basic service with unlimited technical support, and also another package that will provide the unlimited technical support, as well as online virtual workshop that we can provide to the students through the school year. So we can show the student how to use the software, from building template to uploading high quality images to the program, and also move pages around. Usually this is a task that is commonly done, at the end of the school year, when the teacher have an idea of where the book is going to flow, because some pages may need to be moved around in order to accommodate other pages. And beside the software, we're also flexible. Over the years, we have advisors, they provide us with PDF file created by InDesign. So we love that. And we also have advisor, they send us a link of a Canva of the entire book they created using Canva. So we're seeing the trend that certain software become very popular. And at United Yearbook, we're not limited to just one type of platform. We want to create a flexibility to school that they can provide us with the entire yearbook, as long as they are in good quality photograph images, high resolution, and we'll be able to print them at the best quality, based on the quality of the photos that they provided in the pages. So yeah, again, flexibility, and I really like the idea of student leadership, the focus on putting that to the yearbook class at the beginning of the school year.
So the idea also about the what goes into the yearbook, the sections, the theme, the cover case, all of the nuts and bolts of what is within a yearbook, what you expect from a yearbook, what could be possible for a yearbook, are addressed in the instructional guides. And there are activities that will help students understand what the concept of a yearbook is, and how they can formulate their own concept of what they would like their yearbook to be. For an example, when I worked with Sarah to create the summer workshop with my students, we had a number of different yearbooks for our kids to look at so that they could get an idea of what exists in common across yearbooks. So that leads kids to understand what's expected from a yearbook. And they could also find those things that were unique to yearbooks. So they could see where the idea of creativity could be launched within the confines of the yearbook. And so being able to draft their own idea of how the yearbook might flow in the, whether it was a chronological format or a traditional format or a brand new idea, then that was something that students were able to design themselves.
Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that your classroom, provided so many yearbook sample from different school for your yearbook staff, to look at and see, the level of different creativity, they can use some of those ideas, incorporate that, to your school yearbook.
I love the idea of that like community aspect as well. Being able to learn from others and to have like many minds, for inspiration. That's something, we try to do on our social media, sharing different ideas and inspiration for advisors and for students. A lot of students love watching our TikToks specifically and kind of saving them because they think, oh, this yearbook that looks like it's on a movie screen is super fun. And so they'll save that. And so I think that's just another way of showing like the community aspect and the ability to find inspiration and to learn from others, So yeah, I think that's wonderful. And thank you for pointing that out. I think one of the last things I kind of want to go over is there's so much to do during these first few weeks of school. There's so much to do throughout the year, right? But what would you say are just is maybe like 1 or 2 tips that you would give to advisors to keep themselves organized? I know obviously, calendar wise, keep that organized, but is there anything else that you could tell advisors if they're feeling, a little overwhelmed, there's too much going on, how did you personally, keep yourself organized and keep yourself in check?
Well, I'm of the big idea concept. Okay, so at the end of each week, I wanted my students to be able to know and do something. So at the end of week 1, what did I want them to know and be able to do? And so what was going to get them there? Okay, and if I kept that to 3 big ideas, could at the very beginning, did I want them to know, what did I want them to know about photography? And if I kept that to 3 big ideas about photography, then that was good. I wasn't going to beat myself up, nor was I going to make the life of my students difficult. So if you can not super saturate each day, but sprinkle enough in each day so that by the end of the week, you've got those 3 big ideas covered. And you have kids along a continuum, either still at the beginning, maybe they're in the middle, and some are, oh yeah, I got that one. So you're on track with those 3 big ideas. And so depending on what you are focusing on teaching, because there's a lot to teach all at once in a yearbook, if you keep it to manageable, big idea concepts and what you want at the end of the week, then you and your kids will be able to survive.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. I think that sometimes it's so easy for us to kind of look at the year, for example, and think, oh my goodness, I have so many different things that I need to get done and so many different things that I need to get across to my students. And sometimes it may feel like it's too much, right? And so being able to section it off, like you're saying, and to be able to kind of check mark, okay, I've been able to accomplish this today. on to the next thing tomorrow. And so taking it step by step, I'm sure is very helpful. And so, you know, for any advisors out there, take it step by step. There is a lot to do, but you know, as Lucy has just said, you know, you have it, take it one day at a time in a sense. And, you know, the yearbook will be done, you know, the
That's
yearbook
right.
will have, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And always remember that, hey, we're going to have a book at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt
Yep.
about it. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
I do have a follow-up questions, Lucy, on your 3 big ideas. What would be one of your big idea?
For the first week of school,
Correct. Yes.
everybody knows everybody's name. And maybe everybody knows one thing about them.
I love that. Team building,
Yeah,
right?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good. It really gets the point across. Community is key. So
Yes.
yeah, I really appreciate your time today, Lucy. This was so informative and so helpful, and just well wishes to any of the yearbook advisors who are going back to
Yes.
school soon. Yes, you got this. We are here for you. Any questions that you may have, I'll leave the links down below that we talked about. You could also check out our website, unitedyearbook.net. We are happy to help you. That's something that we love to do, is walk alongside yearbook advisors. So yeah, any questions for Lucy, leave them down below. Any questions for us, anything that you need, we're here for you. And so we thank you. And once again, thank you, Lucy and Sarah. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their days.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.